Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, I want to get straight into it. I was asked about a fantasy fight and me to break down this fantasy fight between Canelo Alvarez and Carl the Cobra Froch, and say what's my opinion. Who do I think would win the fight? Listen, let's go through the attributes of both the fighters. I think Carl Froch was a good fighter with a very good engine. He had a granite chin. I think one of his best attributes was his granite chin. I thought his defense wasn't that great, and he used to fight with his arm down. I think he got caught way too much for me defensively, not that great, but he had an iron chin, which made up for his defensive frailties and flaws that he had. He had a very good engine. He wouldn't tire. Stamina was very elite. Very fit fighter. And you know, he could punch. He could dig. He wasn't the biggest puncher in the world, but he could definitely punch. He could definitely knock you out if he catches you right. He definitely put you away. We saw that with George Groves. We saw that in his fight against Jermaine Taylor. Taylor was past his best, and also I think Taylor always had his Achilles heel was that he used to fade later on in fights. Stamina wasn't great. And in that fight against Froch, he was actually ahead, and then Froch knocked him out towards the end of knocked him out in the last round. There wasn't much time left on the clock, and he nailed him, and the referee jumped in. But I think Carl Froch had a lot of close fights. Darrell Pascal were fights where a lot of people thought he lost. He could be outboxed. He could be outworked. But he was a very tough man, and you would always know that you're in a fight with someone like Carl Froch. It wouldn't be an easy fight for anybody. But we saw against Andre Ward how Andre Ward neutralized him and beat him quite comfortably. I thought it was quite a comfortable win. I don't think Froch after the fight himself said I couldn't really land on him. And I think Froch, unfortunately, although he had toughness, heart, determination, granite chin, he was a warrior. He lacked elite level skills. I don't think against the elite pound for pound guys he could compete. If I'm totally honest, he could compete, he could mix it with them, but he couldn't beat them as far as I'm concerned. That's why I think Calzaghe would have beat him. That's why I think Ward beat him quite comfortably. I just don't think Froch against those type of guys. I think against world-class fighters, Froch could beat them. Like, Kessler, Abraham, Darrell, Pascal, even though they were close fights, Bute. These are fighters of a certain type that Froch can compete and beat. Kessler beat Froch when they first fought. The second time he did get revenge, but that was an over-the-hill Kessler. That was a Kessler that was inactive over the hill. Wasn't the same Kessler, the one that Carl Froch fought the first time. But Froch overall was a good fighter, very good engine, good. He had a massive heart, great chin. Like I said, he wasn't the. I think he had defensive frailties, and they showed time to time. We saw Groves put him down. He could be outboxed. We saw Groves outboxed, and we saw many other guys. Like I said, Pascal, Darrell. I thought Darrell probably deserved to win that fight. But Carl Froch had Carl Froch had a good career. He was a good, solid fighter, a very good chin. He was just overall a very solid, all-rounded fighter. But I do think against the pound-for-pound guys, I think he would have come up short. Now, on the other side, we're looking at Canelo. We're looking at a very elite level guy. We're looking at a guy that's got very good. He's right now at super middleweight. He's got great elite defense. His defense is unbelievable. His head movement is unbelievable. He's got great power. He's got great punch variety. He has got a little bit he has at times, his feet are a little slow, but he's definitely worked and improved on that. And against more slicker, southpaw, slick fighters, fast fighters, he can be outboxed, and he has struggled at times, but he's definitely come on and improved that aspect of his game. He's also been outboxed by Mayweather, but there was no shame. It was very early on in his career. Canelo's come on leaps and bounds from then. And I just think Canelo's got unbelievable skills now. I think his skills from his punch selection, punch variety, his head movement, his defensive skills, he's unbelievable. We saw against Callum Smith, a big unit, and he bullied him, and it's hard to win rounds against this guy. He's very, very good boxer. Only the really top boxers were able to win rounds against him. You know, I saw him against Liam Smith. He completely beat him easily. Callum Smith beat him easy. Jacobs was a tough fight. That again, but Jacobs is a very, very good fighter. Golovkin was a close fight, you know, but again, Golovkin's a very, very good fighter. And I just think that I think Canelo is just a complete package right now. And I do think the guys that move around, slick feet, you know, fast hands, they can give Canelo trouble. The problem is Froch doesn't really have any of those attributes. I'm a big Canelo fan, but, you know, taking that aside, I think Canelo wins this fight quite comfortably as well. No, I won't say comfortably because, as I said, Froch is that type of guy. When you're in a ring with him, you're always going to be in a fight. But I don't think Froch had the kind of skills to compete with someone as elite as Canelo. Pound for pound, like I said, the pound for pound guys would beat Froch. And Canelo's got a granite chin himself. He's got all the attributes that Froch has got. Great. Stamina used to be an issue, but that he's improved that as well. Great engine, great chin, big puncher. He's actually probably a bigger puncher than Froch, if I'm totally honest with you. He's a bigger puncher. He's got better, in my opinion, better punch variety. He's overall just a better boxer, better defense, better offense. Pound for pound, Canelo's on another level to Froch. Froch's a good fighter, but like I said, I just think against elite fighters like that, I don't think Froch could win. I'm just being totally honest with you. I don't think Froch could beat a pound for pound great like Canelo. I just don't. It doesn't matter whether Froch might have been taller. Doesn't matter. Callum Smith was 6'4". Yes, Froch is better than Callum Smith. I'll give you that. But nah, he doesn't beat Canelo. He doesn't beat Canelo. Canelo could outbox him. Canelo could go in the center of the ring, and I feel Canelo would come out best because Canelo, like I said, has got the better punch variety. He punches harder. He's got a granite chin. There's no real weakness in Canelo, where there's a lot of weaknesses in Froch. His defense is terrible. Gets hit a lot. Could you afford, even though Carl Froch has got a granite chin, could you afford to take punches from Canelo like that, the way Carl Froch did? Because let's not forget, Callum Smith tucked up, and he kind of went into his shell. Froch wouldn't do that. But we saw Groves put Froch down. We've seen Froch being put down by Jermaine Taylor. We've seen Froch hurt many times in his career. Who's hurt Canelo? Early on in his career, he got hurt by a guy called Cotto. Wobbled him with a left hook. But that was really early in his career. Now, after that, he's fought so many top fighters. He fought Golovkin. He fought so many top guys, and no one was able to tittle him. You know, Canelo's got a granite chin, whereas Froch, because of his poor defense, he got caught a lot with shots. He got caught with flush shots on the chin. And because he had a great chin, he got away with it. But his defense wasn't very good at all. And Canelo would take advantage. Like I said, the pound for pound guys like Andre Ward neutralized Froch. Canelo would do the same, but Canelo's more spiteful. Canelo hits harder. Canelo would hurt you a lot more. I think I wouldn't say Canelo stops Froch because Froch is so tough. But I would definitely say Canelo wins a wide points decision against Froch. I don't think Froch had the boxing ability to compete with Canelo. I think he would, you know, I just think Canelo is better than him at every aspect. You know, I don't see him. Like, people say, well, yeah, he schooled Arthur Abraham, but Arthur Abraham's no Canelo. It's chalk and cheese comparing them two. Froch is a good fighter, but he's not on Canelo's level. And Canelo would, in my opinion, win a unanimous decision against him. Listen, like I said, Froch's got good attributes. Stamina's great, but it's just, I think his skill set against the really elite boxers, he'd come up short. Just because I don't think he'd be. I think Canelo would just be too good. I think, like I said, his punch variety. He punches very hard. Canelo kind of covers every box. And he's also hard to hit. Froch would struggle to hit Canelo at times. Canelo would make Froch miss a lot. You know, Canelo would make Froch miss a lot of punches. And Froch will be walking onto a lot of punches. And that's why I think Froch would eat them. I think Froch would take the punches on. You know, I think he's a very, very, very durable guy. Granite chin. But I just think Canelo's too good. I think Canelo's too good. And I think Canelo wins a wide unanimous decision. Do you guys disagree? Agree? I don't think Froch had the boxing ability to beat a pound for pound fighter. I don't think, like, I think any of the top guys that were in their prime, that were pound for pound fighters, like a Ward, Canelo, Kovalev at that time when Kovalev was a beast, I feel all of them beat him. All of them would have beat him. Kovalev, there's a reason why Froch didn't move up to 175. He could have easily moved up to 175 and fought Kovalev. He had a granite chin and all of this thing you talked about. Because here's the thing, Kovalev was a massive puncher at light heavyweight. And Kovalev was also a very good boxer. Something that Froch wasn't. Froch wasn't the greatest boxer in the world. He was more of a fighter. Tough guy that used to bite down on his gum shield. That used to take a few shots to let a few shots off. And against someone like Kovalev, who's a big puncher in a weight class above, it would have been curtains for Froch. That's why Froch never moved up, ever, to light heavyweight. Because at light heavyweight, the champions there, even though he got offered against Cleverly at light heavyweight, and Froch didn't want to know. And then when the champions were Stevenson and Kovalev, two big punchers, he didn't want to know. He never, ever mentioned moving up to light heavyweight and becoming a two-weight world champion. Why? Because I don't think he believed that he would be able to beat those guys. Because, like I said, Froch used to take a lot of punches. Froch used to get caught flush. And Kovalev, in his prime, right, would have crushed Carl Froch. And Kovalev would have stopped him without question. Because Kovalev would have beat Canelo in his prime. Kovalev was an absolute beast. In his prime, Kovalev was a great fighter. He was a crusher. He was rightfully called a crusher. He was the crusher. And for me, he would have crushed Carl Froch. He would have probably crushed Canelo as well. You know, if a washed up Kovalev, right? Washed up Kovalev, who had, you know, didn't have long to prepare, you know, coming off a tough fight against Yard, didn't have great preparation for Canelo, rushed into a fight, went 11 rounds and was 50-50 at that point. You know, many had Kovalev up on the scorecards at that point. What would a prime Kovalev do? You know, Kovalev. So this is why when I look at Froch's record, yeah, he beat world-class fighters, no doubt about it. But some of the fights were close and fights that could have gone either way. I think Pascal and Darrell were very, like I said, they were very controversial. And if they weren't in his hometown, I think he probably would have lost. But that aside, he beat some good fighters. He beat some good names. He beat, you know, Bute, smashed him to bits. He beat, what's his name? Groves. You know, he beat Darrell. I know they were close. Darrell, Pascal, I know they were close. Abraham, you know, Glenn Johnson. He beat some good fighters, man. He did beat some good fighters. But again, none of these guys that I'm naming are pound for pound fighters. These are all world class, you know, in around top 168. But they weren't world class. They weren't elite pound for pound fighters. You know, the elite pound for pound fighter was Andre Ward, and the weight class above was Kovalev. Kessler was good. Kessler was a good fighter. But again, I don't ever look at Kessler as a pound for pound fighter. He was a world class fighter. But again, I think Kessler was enough. Basically, Kessler was like Froch, a tough man, a warrior, a granite chin. But we saw Calzaghe outclass, you know, Kessler. So, and that was before Froch fought him. So, like I said, I think he's a good fighter. I think Froch is Froch is a good fighter. I just think Canelo's a better fighter. And I think Canelo, even though Froch would have physical advantages over him, I think Canelo would win a points decision. I think Canelo's too good. I think he's a pound for pound. I think he's an all-time great. And I think he's got the better skills. He's the better fighter. He's the more complete boxer compared to Froch. I think Froch had limitations, and I think Canelo would take advantage of those limitations, which I mentioned earlier in the video. Leave your thoughts though. Let me know your opinion. I'd love to know what you think. Do you think Froch could beat Canelo? Do you think Canelo would beat him? I think Canelo would win on points. Do you think Canelo could stop him? Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.